The Pro Football Hall of Fame in Canton, Ohio is where the NFL sends its all-time greats. What if I told you they still haven't let in the best player at their position? Who is the best player of all time? Now, this is a question that plagues every sport. Jordan or LeBron? Messi or Ronaldo? Football is, of course, no exception. The obvious answer is Tom Brady. He's got the rings, he's got the MVPs, he's got the LFGs. But like I said, it's the obvious choice. Quarterback, that's the easy way out. Well, maybe you're an old school guy, you're taking Jim Brown. He didn't need the latest Nike cleats, he just steamrolled everybody for what seems like a decade. Sure, he doesn't have the Super Bowls, but he's got a couple championships, and when he retired, he held the record for every major rushing stat. He was the GOAT before the conversation even started. But maybe you love defense. Could Lawrence Taylor be the GOAT? Could it be Nitrain Lane or the Minister of Defense? There are cases to be made for all of them, and at face value, it's hard to reject any answer flat out. Positional GOAT naming would at least level the playing field. Even then, every position could be dragged into its own debate. Every position except for one. Scoring is easier on offense than it is anywhere else. That's not controversial. LaDainian Tomlinson ran for 22 touchdowns in a single season. Peyton Manning put up an insane 55 touchdowns in 2013. The record for defensive touchdowns in a season is a measly 5, set by the Oilers' Ken Houston in 1971. Whoa, Houston? In Houston? If you're on defense and you score 3 touchdowns, you've almost surely scored more than any other defensive player for that year. Kick and punt returns can score too, but rarely would someone have enough returns to lead the league in non-offensive touchdowns, right? Right? Well, enter Devin Hester. Hester was a 5-star football recruit from Riviera Beach, Florida. He went on to commit to nearby University of Miami, where his insane speed and agility were instantly recognized by the coaches. Freshman Hester was named their starting kick returner for the 2003 season. In his second ever college football game, he took the field for a primetime matchup as his number 3 ranked Miami Hurricanes squared off against rival Florida Gators, who at the time were ranked 18. Hester stood back awaiting the opening kickoff and proceeded to take it 97 yards for a Miami touchdown. He went on to score 8 more times during his career in Miami, 6 by way of kick or punt return. He declared for the 2006 NFL Draft, where he was taken by the Chicago Bears in the second round. And just like in college, it didn't take him long to make his mark in the NFL. Game 1 of his rookie year, Hester returns a punt 84 yards in a 26-0 romping of the Green Bay Packers. The Windy City Flyer would go on to have a still record 6 returns during his first year in the league. A bit more context should give you a greater appreciation of his work. The 2006 Bears went to the Super Bowl thanks to the second best scoring offense in the NFL and the third best scoring defense. Rex Grossman didn't exactly do great. His quarterback rating was 73.9. That's not very good. Maybe it was a running team. Well, they ran for over 1,900 yards, but that's only good for 15th best in the league. So what gives? Well, part of it is first-team All-Pro kicker Robbie Gould, who led the NFL and made field goals with 32. That tied the record for 8th most in a single season at the time. Their other secret was Mr. Hester. The Bears had the 3rd best average starting field position, the 32-yard line. This made scoring much easier for the offense. Having a weapon at kicker meant that the offense only needed to gain a few yards to get into field goal range, send out Gould, make your field goal, and then put the best defense in the NFL on the field. Seriously, this defense was insane. Remember this?
But they are who we thought they were.
The Bears offense scored 1 field goal in that game. They turned the ball over 6 times, and they won. This defense had 4 Pro Bowlers. This snubbed Charles Tillman and Ricky Manning, who both had 5 interceptions on a defense that caused 44 takeaways. That was the best in the league in 2006. This brick wall of a defense caused a lot of punts, which meant they were kicking to, you guessed it. With 6 touchdowns, Hester was tied for the highest scoring Bear in 2006. Not only that, but Hester was 3rd in all-purpose yards on the team. That's called complementary football. He returned 2 kickoffs for touchdowns and 3 punts for touchdowns, along with this gem, a 108-yard field goal returned in the Meadowlands. But he wasn't finished. On the opening kickoff of the Super Bowl, he did that returning thing again. But we'll get back to that later. In short, he put together the best returning season of all time. Then, in 2007, he did it again. Yeah, you heard me right. In 2007, Hester took his numbers from his rookie campaign and cranked it up to 11. He more than doubled his number of kickoff returns and added nearly 500 more yards returning kicks. Again, he finished the season with a grand total of 6 touchdowns, tying his own NFL record. The Bears produced nearly 4,700 yards that year, and Devin Hester himself created 1,585 yards on returns alone. This is the type of returning prowess that's never been seen in NFL history. And for the Bears superfan, it might be a reminder of another Chicago legend. In the latter half of the 1960s, the Bears had a young superstar running back by the name of Gale Sayers. Nicknamed the Kansas Comet, the late Sayers produced a Hall of Fame career in just 68 games. Sayers suffered multiple injuries during his time in Chicago, forcing him to retire early. Despite a shortened career, Sayers created enough of a resume to be inducted in the Hall of Fame in 1977. Part of his resume included a prolific ability to return kicks. He scored on a record 8 special teams returns during his brief but legendary career, tied with Hall of Famer Bobby Mitchell. That record stood from Sayers' retirement in 1972 until 1994, when it was finally broken by Mel Gray. The Kansas Comet made his case for getting into the Hall of Fame, both as a running back and a returner. But could a pure returner ever make a case for Canton? So we've established that Hester was very, very good at returning kicks, and a critical component to the Bears' success in the late 2000s, but he wasn't deemed a first ballot Hall of Famer. If I had a time machine, I'd go back and write a strongly worded letter to every member of the 49-person committee, and I can imagine at least one member had a pretty good idea of Hester's worthiness. Remember that Super Bowl return I mentioned? Well, guess who was on the opposite sideline? And what did Tony Dungy do after this 92-yard return? Well, let's observe. Just like you wouldn't throw to an elite shutdown corner and expect to win, you don't kick the ball to Devin Hester and expect to win. And so, Dungy didn't, and he won a Super Bowl because of it. Now, discussing Hester's Hall of Fame candidacy usually takes an unpleasant turn into his impact as a wide receiver. Though not a league leader, he wasn't a slouch either. In his best season by yardage, he was 32nd in receiving yards per game, despite missing 3 of the final 4 games. Hester caught a higher percentage of passes thrown his way than Hall of Famers Tony Gonzalez and Randy Moss. Stats can be fun like that. I'll admit, was he a Hall of Fame receiver? The answer is no. But Tom Brady isn't a Hall of Fame punter, and he'll still be enshrined in Canton. Even so, Hester may have the ability without the opportunity. The touches he did have on offense were pretty exciting. Even on plays with minimal success, you could feel his potential, the feeling that anything could happen. The offenses he was a part of were never really designed for him to be much more than a decoy. Maybe that was a missed opportunity. Imagine a Bears offense where Hester was used like 2021 Deebo Samuel. Different players, for sure, but a game plan involving a prime Hester on sweeps and runs that functioned to put him in the open field could have been a revelation for Chicago's then sputtering offense, and it certainly would have bettered his chances in Canton. If you took away his offense and look only at his return numbers, the Windy City Flyers is an elite company. If we look at the most non-offensive touchdowns in the NFL, Hester has 21, including the playoffs. The next highest scorer, Deion Sanders. After that, Rod Woodson. In fact, just look at the company in this stat. He did it on kicks only. These are stats we'll never see again, especially due to the 2011 rule moving kickoffs up from the 30 to the 35. And the NFL's new goal of abolishing the kickoff altogether. In 2010, 23 kickoffs were returned for touchdowns. In 2011, just 9 were returned. Since the new rule, there's only been 1 season in which double-digit touchdowns were ever scored. If you want to dethrone Hester, you'll have to do it almost entirely with punts. From 2006 to 2016, Devin Hester would be tied for second best returning team, number 1 being obviously the team he scored 21 touchdowns for. One of my favorite plays from that era was a testament to Hester's scariness. Hester is here, but the designed returner on this play is Johnny Knox. Now this play wouldn't stand due to a penalty, but look how the Bears scored simply by pretending that Hester would return the kick. That's some serious power. Hester holds the 2 best returning seasons of all time, and he did it in back-to-back years. That's the kind of excellence that gets you a shiny head in Ohio, but Hester will have to wait another year. In response to disappointingly not joining the 2022 class, Hester was obviously frustrated, but kept it very professional, tweeting, "I really wanted this one bad, but life goes on and hopefully it will happen someday." The Hall of Fame committee will have to come to their senses at some point. After all, you're talking about the GOAT of returning. This isn't up for debate. And when he finally peels the cover off his shiny new bust, the world will know what we do. Devin Hester, you are ridiculous.